From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the brand new Fox 8 studios here in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. This is Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Don't forget the Junior. It's very important. Remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that
Fire content.
And also, hello to the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have all found us here. It is Friday in the city. A good week when it comes to the weather in the city. It's been a really good week because last week was a little crazy. This week, a little more what we're accustomed to. Getting a little hotter, but that kind of is what it is here in the city of New Orleans. A lot of things to talk about when it comes to the Saints, Andre. But first and foremost, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. You know, shout out to my sister-in-law. She graduated yesterday. I was at that event. And then tomorrow, my grandma turns 101.
Whoa.
So I will be having ice cream and cake.
We should do the whole podcast on that.
That's what I'm saying. We need podcast guests. Need to bring in.
Wow, 101.
She done seen a lot of days with the
Happy
Saints.
birthday. Congratulations. That is freaking awesome. So happy birthday. Is it Mrs. Johnson or Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah,
okay.
Mrs. Johnson.
Grandma Johnson.
We call her Mommy.
Mommy, okay. Happy birthday. All right. Well, I don't know how we're going to top that, but we're going to try today. It is Friday, city of New Orleans. It's been, like I said, it's been a kind of a busy-ish week. I did the, I don't know if you guys saw last night on Fox 8 News at 10. I did the story of the Adam Sivia, the double above-the-knee amputee power lifter. So glad I got to air. Got a good response from that. So happy all you guys have seen that as well. As for us today, big picture, still kind of settling in here with the new schedule announcement. Next week, the Saints will start OTAs. A couple things. The announcement comes out. We look at it. We have our initial feelings. You go back and look at it. You know, I got to tell you, I didn't feel it was all that daunting originally. I still feel that way today, especially when you go through game by game. But Vegas does not think the Saints are going to be good this year. I can't blame them. I can't blame them because the Saints are they're a team that's a little bit stuck. It's a brand new regime, and they're going to have to earn that respect back. So the Las Vegas scene, if you're into that, boy, not a whole lot of respect thrown the Saints' way.
Yeah, you know, 17 games on the schedule, Sean, and out of those 17 games, according to Vegas, the Saints are favorites in one of them. Underdogs 16 times, favorites only once. That favorite coming week 16 at home against the New York Jets. Otherwise, Vegas says the Saints should be favored to lose every other game. Was that surprising to you?
Yes, I got to say it is because, look, I don't expect the Saints to be good, but I don't expect a lot of these teams on the schedule to be good. And especially, it's really hard to be a home underdog. Especially when you have, like, home dog against, like, Carolina or the Giants. I mean, like, those aren't juggernauts. So I'm a little surprised. And, look, this is initial. Obviously, it changes as the weeks come by and you get closer and closer to that kickoff. But I am a little surprised at that. Not that I'm big on preseason spreads or season spreads a day after the schedule comes out, but obviously it caught a lot of our attention. Garland Gillen was the first one to really tweet it out, and I looked at it and I looked at it again. I was like, my goodness! You look at some of these teams they're playing, man, that really is a low amount of respect for the Saints. So they are going to be a true underdog story in 2025 because right now, legitimately, no one thinks they can win a game except one. That's really something really going into it. There's your motivation right there.
And it's actually working because yesterday I went to Brandon Cooks' football camp. He had a football camp for a lot of kids in the area. He's been in the city for a few weeks. He's loving being back here. And I asked him about the schedule. And I didn't even bring up the fact that they didn't have any primetime games. But the first thing he said was, not having any primetime games is crazy. But they're kind of using that as motivation and rallying around it. And I'm sure they can do the same with the fact that Vegas thinks that they'll only be favored to win one game this season.
Look, you, me, we're all in the same boat. Everyone covering the team, all the fan bases. We are going to go into this season with the expectation that things are not going to be successful.
I don't know. I saw somebody in the comments yesterday saying that this is an 11-win schedule.
Okay, well, God bless that commenter. But we all want to be dead wrong. We all want to be dead wrong. So if what we're saying is going to be used as motivation, so be it. If the odds makers having you underdogs in every single game is motivation, so be it. If no primetime games is motivation, so be it. Do whatever you got to do. Just do your best to win some games. In saying that, we talked about our initial impressions of the schedule when it happened on Wednesday night. By the way, the NFL, y'all did a phenomenal job of holding off the leakers this year because, we kept waiting, and it just, we didn't get the full thing till 7 o'clock. So kudos. They kept it really tight-lipped. But now we've had some time to think about it. We're just going to do what we do. That's just going to go game by game and just go win, place the W or place the L. And then we're just going to add them up at the end and see what the Saints' final outcome looks like, wins and losses. And we'll see if we're right or wrong when the season ends in January. So without further ado, I think that's where we're going to go with the big picture today.
Oh, yeah, we're starting week 1 in the Superdome. Saints versus Cardinals. That spread, by the way, plus 3.5 for the Saints. So Vegas doesn't expect Saints to win the game. Do you expect them to win their season?
All right. So Arizona's an interesting team. They probably have a coach on the hot seat. I've never been a Kyler Murray fan. Felt like he had a couple glimpses earlier in his career, but it just feels like he should be further along in his development right now. Sometimes when you're a brand new head coach and you're basically a brand new team, while you're not quite sure who you are yet, neither does your opponent. So sometimes you can have a little bit of, I don't want to say beginner's luck, but a little bit of no one knows what you're going to do. There's no tape on you yet. And Arizona strikes me as a very inconsistent team with a coach that could be potentially on the hot seat, with an inconsistent quarterback, who I always felt like there should be more there. Probably doesn't quite get the level of criticism he should for a number 1 overall pick. So I'm going to start with a stunner. I'm going with a victory for the Saints. The Kellen Moore era starts 1-0, which is going to be massive for Kellen Moore because while I don't think they're going to win a lot of games this year, getting that first one right out of the gate, you can exhale because when you're a rookie head coach and it takes a while to get that first win, that can really that can play tricks on you. So I'm going to go W. Saints start the season off 1-0 against Arizona.
And that's a game I looked at hard because I think that there's going to be a lot of energy around that game because if you think about it, especially if the Saints start losing like many people expect them to this season, there might not be hype around any game more like there's hype around the first game. The fans are going to be excited. There's a new quarterback, whoever it's going to be, whether it's Shuck, whether it's Rattler, Hayner, whoever. There's going to be a new young face of the Saints that runs out of that tunnel, surrounded by the flames for the season opener against a beatable Cardinals team. But I think that a little reality sets in. I have them losing to the Cardinals that week. I'm interested to see this from Brandon Staley because we know how the Saints over the years have struggled stopping mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is one of the faces of mobile quarterbacks in this league. Marvin Harrison Jr. coming off probably a bit of a disappointing rookie season for where you kind of set his expectations. You probably saw him more around what Neighbors and Brian Thomas did last year. He's coming into year 2. I think they did a pretty good job drafting as well. So I think it'll be close. I think the Saints will put on a good show, but I think the Cardinals walk out the dome with that win.
All right, you got L, I got a W. All right, what's next?
Up next, staying at home against the San Francisco 49ers. That spread for the Saints is +7, so they're expected to lose by a whole touchdown.
Yeah, that's you know how hard it is to be a touchdown home dog that early in the season.
Yeah. Because
you only get one of those where I don't know who you are, kind of, and it's confusing for the opponent. The only team that has an easier schedule based off opponent's winning percentage, San Francisco 49ers, and this is going to be a game where they come into New Orleans, take care of business, and defeat the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a reality check for the Saints because I think at some point the Brock Purdy situation is going to get settled with this contract. I know they lost some guys, but they got some guys coming back. A player we both love, and Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be healthy this year. They added some pieces. I know they lost some pieces, but they're so well coached, especially in the regular season. They have such a strong identity. They know exactly who they are. And I just don't think the Saints are going to be up to the task in week 2. I think they slipped to 1-1 with maybe they put up a good fight, maybe they don't. But I think San Francisco comes in here, takes care of business, and then gets out of town.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning, typically in Vegas, just by being the home team, you get the benefit of about 2 or 3 points towards the spread right there. So that's still +7 with the Saints being the home team. But, yeah, I think San Francisco, they had a bit of an off year last year. But like you mentioned, a lot of injuries. Christian McCaffrey's coming back. They lose Deebo Samuel, but Brandon Ayuk, who was injured for most of last year, he'll be back. Ricky Pearsall, the guy from Florida, he was a rookie last year. He'll be stepping into a bigger role, and he was hurt a bit last year too because he had an instance.
He had a gunshot.
He got shot before the season. So, you're bringing a lot of people back from injury. You still got a solid core, one of the best offensive coaches in the league in Shanahan over there. So, I think despite being in a dome, I think the 49ers take that one. I have them starting 0-2.
All right, so we agree on that, but I have them at 1-1. You have them at 0-2. All right, what's next?
Week 3, we're hitting the road all the way to the West Coast, going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. That spread +6.5 for the Saints. Once again, Vegas not expecting this game to be particular.
First of all, I'm very curious to see the Sam Darnold experiment up in Seattle. And then look, Jalen Milroe needs a lot of work, but they drafted him. I don't think we see him in this game unless there's some sort of catastrophic injury or whatever. Because even if Darnold is somewhat a slow start, I don't think they'd be done with him given their investment by week 3. Seattle's a very difficult place to play, very loud. It has potential for rain every time you go there. I mean, like I told y'all last podcast, I mean, the last few times I've gone there, it's been just, rain is just annoying. That's a brutal road trip in terms of just the distance you have to travel. Probably get up there on a Friday. First road game. I know Kellen Moore is from the Washington area. Is that correct? I believe so. It's a little bit of a homecoming for him, but I can't. I mean, I can't go any further with that. Saints are going to lose this game. I got them losing probably. What was the spread on this one? Did you have it?
+6.5.
+6.5. Yeah, that's probably about right. I cannot, in good conscience, predict the Saints' victory here. I'm going with the loss for the Saints.
If there was any game that would shock the world, I think it might be that one because I'm not sold on Seattle. You lose DK Metcalf. You do bring in Cooper Kupp, but he's an older Cooper Kupp. He's not the guy who had arguably the greatest wide receiver season ever a couple years back. But you do have Jackson Smith-Njigba who steps into a bigger role in Seattle. You've got those running backs, Sam Darnold at quarterback, and I am not sold on Sam Darnold consistently being an above-average quarterback in this league. I think he's an average quarterback who, in stretches with the right coaching, with the right players, can look good, as he did at times in Minnesota. But at the end of the day, he's still Sam Darnold.
They got a defensive coach in Seattle, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think this game will be closer than you expect. I actually think the Saints cover the spread, but I don't think they win the game. I'm going to go Seattle wins this one. 0-3 for the Saints to start.
You got them 0-3. I got them 1-2. All right, week 4. What's next?
I don't think we'll have any disagreements on this one.
Keep this one quick.
At Buffalo, spread +12.5, the largest spread all season against the Saints.
Yeah, the best I can hope for is potentially Buffalo overlooking the Saints in this game. That's the best you can hope for if you're the Saints. You're not winning this game. Buffalo's Super Bowl ready. Buffalo's got an elite quarterback. Buffalo added some pieces that are going to be really, really, really good for Buffalo this year. The good news is you're catching them in September, but if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. So the Saints, maybe they cover. 12.5 is a big spread for an NFL game. Again, that could change by the time it rolls around. But I'm going to keep this short and sweet. They're not beating the Buffalo Bills. What say you?
That's the reigning MVP out there in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So whether you catch them in October, September, December, you could catch them in July. I think Josh Allen and the Bills walk out with the win against the Saints. I don't think it's particularly close. I mean, this is one of the best, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL, one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL, a mobile quarterback, one of which the Saints struggle to stop. So, yeah, give me the Bills in that one. So, sorry, guys, that's 0-4 to start the season.
Interestingly enough, remember, Joe Brady decided to stay there as opposed to interview for an organization that he did interview, but as opposed to pursuing the possibility of being a Saints head coach. All right, week 5, what's next?
Week 5, at home again against the New York Giants. This is one of the games I was surprised the Saints weren't the favorites in. The spread, even though they're at home, is still +1.5. So it's expected to be a close game, but the Giants still projected to win. Do you think the Giants win?
Well, they'll either have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, or Jackson Dart. None of those guys scare me. They're coming back home after when you talk about just the miles you got to go, West Coast, East Coast, back-to-back road trips. They'll welcome this return back home to the Dome, and they are going to rally. They are going to suit up. They're going to play the New York Giants, and they are going to win. And whoever the quarterback is, I think this is the game you see them kind of get their feet under them a little bit, and they start to maybe catch some momentum a little bit. I think the New Orleans Saints will defeat the New York Giants. I cannot believe they're underdogs in this game because what impresses you about the Giants? I love Malik Neighbors. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot. I know they got a couple. They had a top 5 pick. Was it Abdul Carter they picked? Yeah. So I believe the Saints will be 2-3 after this game because they're going to defeat the New York Giants.
Well, I got them 0-4 coming into this game on a pretty long losing streak to start the season. But that ends week 5 against the Giants. I got them beating the Giants mainly because I don't fear their offense. I mean, you remember the Giants game last year, the game where Derek Carr got hurt. It wasn't a great offensive game for either team. What did the Saints win, like 19-14 or something weird like that?
It was a Brian Brzee blocked field goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the blocked field goal to clinch the win. I think it was Tommy DeVito last year. But
no, it was Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yeah. Drew Lock last year. Tommy DeVito in the Dome when they played 2 years back. So I don't care if it's Russell Wilson. Jameis Winston would be fun, but I don't care if it's Jameis. I don't care if it's Jackson Dart. I don't think they have the firepower offensively to beat many teams in this league. And considering that they will be back in the Dome for the first time in a few weeks because the Saints have been on a road trip, I do think the energy will be there. I think the Saints win this game. So I got them 1-4.
I got them 2-3. All right. We'll pick it up a little bit. Week 6.
Staying at home against the New England Patriots. +3.
I think it's going to be a great game, but I think New England's going to be so much more improved with Vrabel. I just think they're going to be tougher on defense and they'll be more disciplined. I think Drake May is going to take that leap. I think he's got better weapons. I think he's got a better offensive line with Will Campbell. I think it's going to be a great game. I think this is going to be one of those games where the Saints are going to fight hard. I think they can win this game, but I'm going to predict the New England Patriots come to New Orleans and win because I think by this point, it's going to start to come together for Drake May, where he's going to kind of get to that point where he's going to prove his status as his number 3 overall pick 2 seasons ago. So I think Drake May is going to have a great game, and I think the New England Patriots beat the Saints in a close one in Week 6.
I think the Patriots are probably a solid dark horse in the league this year. They're probably one of the more slept-on teams that could be in the playoffs. I don't think they're winning the AFC East by any measure, but a wild card team? I mean, if you look at their schedule, once again, one of the easiest in the league, it's not hard to find 10 or 11 wins on that Patriots schedule. I think they can maybe sneak into a wild card spot in that AFC. I think they beat the Saints in Week 6 and plunge the Saints down to 1-5 to start the year.
All right, Week 7.
Week 7, they're going to Chicago to take on the Bears, +7.5 the spread. So the Saints, once again, expected to lose by a touchdown.
Say that spread again.
+7.5.
Really? Come on. The rookie head coach, a second-year quarterback that was erratic last year. I mean, I know, look, he's going to improve. There's no doubt about that. And maybe the same thing with New England, with Drake May, happens with Caleb Williams by this time. So maybe he's dominating the league. Who knows? But that's disrespectful. I'm sorry. That's just disrespectful. But in saying that, I think the Saints lose because I had W initially and then I scratched it out. I'm just not quite there yet. They get a much better offensive line with Chicago. Caleb Williams, if he takes that step, is going to have, like I said, similar to Drake May, is going to be kind of feeling it at this point. I don't think the Saints are quite there yet. This is never an easy place to play for them. They did catch them at a good time, but it's one of my the playing surface is difficult because it's usually longer grass.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an odd layout to a stadium. So I got to go loss for the Saints. So they fall to 2-5 after Week 7.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Chicago. They love their quarterback because they have surrounded him with everything to succeed. And I think that's why the spread is so high. I mean, they have spared no expense for Caleb Williams. I mean, you bring in the hottest coaching name in Ben Johnson. You got Rome Odunze for him last year. You get Colston Loveland, the first tight end off the board in the draft this year. They have invested so heavily into Caleb Williams and this offense. They better be good. They better be able to take on what we expect at that time will be a struggling Saints team at home. So I think Chicago pulls that one out. That leaves them at 1-6 for me so far through that point in the season.
All right, what's next?
They are at home against Tampa Bay, plus 5.5.
Who's ready for an upset? Because I am.
Woo.
All right, I'm calling it right here. The Saints get a win for a couple of reasons. One, we know the NFC South is incredibly competitive, and there's no dominant team ever. Tampa Bay is the best team in this division. There's no doubt about that. But the Saints have historically matched up pretty well. Even in games they've lost, they've played well against Tampa Bay. But here's the other reason. I got it written right here. The Saints are catching the Bucs on a short week. Bucs play Monday Night Football the week before. They're not coming off a bye. No, they have the exact opposite. They're coming off a Monday night game. Then they got to travel to New Orleans, a team that knows them very well. Baker Mayfield has some mixing and matching when it comes to the Saints. It's really boom or bust. I mean, you recall that game, the home game last year, Spencer Rattler's first start. Yep. He had 3 picks in the second quarter in that game. So I'm calling. This is going to be the signature win of the Kellen Moore inaugural season as Saints head coach. I'm going victory for the Saints. They improve to 3-5 at the 8-game mark.
I do think he gets a signature win. I do not think it's that weak. Tampa Bay, like you said, they haven't been putting together, world-beating records, but they've been dominating the NFC South. I think that domination continues in this week. That offense, as much as they struggled that game in the Dome, they still made the Saints look silly in that game. They scored, I believe, over 40 points. So, yeah, I'm taking Tampa in the Dome. That drops the Saints for me to 1-7.
I got them at 3-5.
As we head to Week 9, once again, on the road in L.A. against the Rams, plus 9.5, that spread.
This is a loss. Okay, I'm not even going to waste your time. A couple things. A, it's a West Coast trip, another long. You probably got to go up there on a Friday. B, the Rams are that much better. And C, they're coming off of a bye. Rams are coming off of a bye. One of 3 teams coming off of a bye to face the Saints. And the Saints are simply going to not be good enough, barring some crazy injury, which that's every team. If you know crazy injuries, that can derail any season. But the Saints are not winning this game as currently constructed. They will lose. What's the spread?
Plus 9.5.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And the Rams might even cover that game. The Saints are losing that game against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Rams succeed last year and I believe make the playoffs with Puka Nacua missing a lot of time with injury. Cooper Kupp missed some time with injury. That was a banged up team last year and they still managed to win. Assuming they're relatively healthy with their best players, I think they're good enough to beat the Saints. That drops them, I'm sorry guys, on my list to 1-8 as we head into Week 10 going to Carolina. That spread plus 4.5 against the Panthers.
Throw the Dubs up. They're getting a win right here. I like that. Makes them 2-0 in the NFC South. Carolina ain't ready. I'm not buying the Bryce Young love. I'm not buying the hype. I know they got a good young coach. I know he played better towards the end of the season. But I think, again, NFC South is winnable. And I got them winning their fair share of NFC South games. This is their second NFC South victory. I'm going W to get them to 4-6 at this point.
I talked about dark horses. One dark horse that I have in the NFC South, Carolina. They're actually my pick to win the South this year. If Bryce Young can be the Bryce Young that we saw over the last month of the season last year. I talked about Chicago loving their quarterback. The Panthers over the last few years invested in a left tackle for him, a wide receiver for him, and then another wide receiver for him, all in the first round. Chuba Hubbard was one of the best running backs in the league last year. You also draft another running back this year after drafting the top running back last year. The Panthers are investing in that offense. If Bryce Young can give them anything, they might surprise a lot of people this year.
So translation, he better be ready because they're giving him everything. If it ain't going to happen this year, it's probably going to be out.
Yeah, then he's out of there. Then they're in the march for Arch, as they say.
All right, week 11
I got the Panthers winning this one. Week 11's the bye.
So you have them, 1-11?
I have them 1-9 so far through the first through the bye week, but then they come out at home against Atlanta plus 2.5 that spread.
Again, I'm going Dub. Coming off the bye, it's a 62% winner in the league. I think at one point that was a stat that I had heard. It's hard to beat a team coming off a bye. You're at home. They always match up well against Atlanta, no matter how bad they are. I remember last year when Rizzi took over. They played Atlanta first game. Atlanta had a winning record. And look, until Penix proves it, he's unproven. So this is always going to be a tough game for Atlanta when they come here. I'm going win. Saints improve to 5-6 at this point.
Well, I told you guys on Wednesday I had the Saints beating an NFC South team. This is the one coming out the bye at home against Atlanta. I don't care what their record is. I have it right now at 1-9. Fans will show up in the Dome for the Saints versus the Dirty Birds. I think that's when they get off the losing streak. They beat the Falcons, get some energy back in the Dome, and progress to 2-9 for me on the season.
All right, week 13.
Week 13, they're taking that trip to South Beach, playing the Miami Dolphins. That spread at +6.
All right, I'm going to go with the L right here. Here's why. A, it's an uncommon opponent. They don't face the Dolphins very much. Miami's been good to them, though. I mean, they won a Super Bowl there. But more importantly, I alluded to earlier with the Rams, they're catching Miami coming off of a bye. The Dolphins are coming off of a bye. You do the math. Miami gets the win. Saints get the loss. So they fall to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 7 with me right at this point.
Miami is a tough team because that's a banger bust offense. When they look bad, they look horrible. But when Tua has it rolling, Tyreek Hill is speeding down the field. You've got Devon Achane, who's one of the more dynamic young running backs in the league. I think that's just too much for the Saints to keep up with. I've got Miami beating the Saints. That sends them to 2-10 as they head to Tampa, so elsewhere in Florida, for a game against the Bucs. This spread, huge, +9.5.
Okay, we got about a minute and a half left. So I'm going to go, this is a loss for the Saints because they won earlier matchup. They're not sweeping Tampa Bay, so I'm going loss for the Saints.
I'm also going loss for the Saints here. I think Tampa takes care of business at home. Saints back to the Dome against Carolina, +1.5 spread against the Panthers.
I got a loss right here again because they beat Carolina earlier. Carolina's coming off of a bye right here, so I'm going Carolina with the victory. They split them, so they go 3-3, or excuse me, 3-3 in the NFC South. They lose.
I'm going to go, again, a loss to Carolina because I think the Panthers are really going to be the dark horse this season in the NFL. I think they make the playoffs. I think they sweep the Saints. Now, on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, we are out of time. We will say good night on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We will see you next time on Overtime. But if you're watching on YouTube, on our website, Spotify, online, wherever, we're going to keep it rolling because we still got another 3 or 4 games on the schedule, Sean.
All right, who you got next?
Up next, Week 16, they're staying at home. The one game they're favored to win on this schedule against the New York Jets.
They got it right. I'm not convinced of Justin Fields. The New York Jets always seem to be in a state of chaos. They always seem to be in a state of dysfunction. At this point in the season, it's a good opponent late at home. This is around Christmas time. Is this Christmas weekend? It's very close to Christmas weekend if it's not. I'm going W for the Saints. So to get their 6th win of the season against the New York Jets.
I was talking to my friend Clyde earlier today. He's a Jets fan, and he said, you know what? The Jets are going to be who they always are. I said, who are they always? He said, the New York Jets.
That's it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the Jets are going to jet. 2 years ago, they were a young team on the rise.
They always seem to be. They always seem to be.
It seemed like they were about to cross that threshold, and Aaron Rodgers tore that whole organization down in the span of 2 years. So, yeah, I think they're going to have a very tough year this year, and I think the Saints handled their business in Week 16 against the Jets.
All right, what's next?
They get to face the #1 overall pick of the draft, Cam Ward, assuming he's healthy and starting, in Tennessee, Week 17, +3.5, that spread.
Well, one of my favorite cities to go to in Nashville, one of my favorite games to go to because I just like being around Nashville and Tennessee. Cam Ward's going to be interesting to see how his rookie year progresses. It could be great. It could be terrible. Who knows? But I don't know where the Saints going to be at this point. So I came close to predicting the W here, but I got to go loss for the Saints in Tennessee.
I went with the win. I think this is their first and only winning streak of the season for me on my schedule. Now, it's interesting where they're catching Cam Ward because catching him in Week 17 opposed to catching him in Week 2, you're going to see a completely different Cam Ward than, the guys catching him early when he's still trying to figure it out. I think both teams will probably be toward the bottom of the standings at this point in the season. But I think the Saints can beat Tennessee because I know Cam Ward was QB1 according to most people going into the draft. I'm not low on Cam Ward, but I'm not as high on Cam Ward as a lot of people were. I think if he was drafted in a different year, if he was drafted last year with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and all of them, he might have been a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback. But he was QB1 in this draft, but I do not think he'll be QB1 Week 17. Saints get the dub in Nashville.
All right, we're closing things out against Atlanta on the road.
+4.5.
Feels like it happens a lot. They always close out the season with the NFC South team. Look, they beat them earlier in the season according to my schedule. I got to go loss right here. I don't know how good they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be in the playoff contention. And I think the Saints have certainly – they always can beat Atlanta. They can always beat Atlanta because it's Atlanta. Last year's game, they win that game. Maybe who knows how different the season looks. But I, just for the sake of likelihood and Had I picked them losing at home, I probably would have picked them to win on the road, but I picked them to win at home, so I'm going to pick them to lose on the road to close out their season to the Falcons with a loss.
I think this game will mean something for Atlanta. It won't mean anything for the Saints. I think Atlanta will either be in the wild card picture or they'll be in the battle to try to win first place in the NFC South and secure a playoff spot. I think with this game meaning so much more for Atlanta in Week 18 of the season, and it's at home, I think the Falcons pull it out, which has me at 4-13 grand total for the season for the New Orleans Saints.
I got them at 6-11 with victories over Arizona, the Giants, Tampa Bay at home. Tampa Bay at home, Panthers on the road, Atlanta at home, and the New York Jets. Those are my 6 victories. Is that enough? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I got my 6 wins, 6-11. I told you there were 11 winnable games. We're going to split the difference, 5.5. And I'm an optimistic person. I'm going to go over the 5.5, got it at 6-11.
I am not as optimistic. I told you there were 13 winnable games on the schedule.
Yeah.
I think they only win 4 of them against the New York Giants, at home against the Atlanta Falcons. They beat the Jets, and they beat the Tennessee Titans. You're 4-13 by the end of the season, and by March, April, you're talking about Arch Manning or Garrett Nussmeier. Unless Tyler Shuck looks good in that 4-13.
And that's going to be in the background the entire season. All right, we went a little over on the Gulf Coast or on YouTube. Gulf Coast, we had to get out a little early, but that was good. Kind of went through each one. I'm sure you guys agree with everything we just said.
Of course.
Anyway, all right, for Andre Johnson Jr., I'm Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.